you want to know, I'll tell you, he said. He said, there was part of that film, he said, and there was a one stripping off going into a lake. And he said, just at the wrong time, he said, there did a train pass. And when the train was gone, she was inside in the lake. And I was thinking, he said, over at home in bed after, he said, that surely to God, with any bit of luck at all, one of the nights the train would be late. Mikey went down the street to Lad Lane, where he always left the bike. And his mother's Noorali bike on, he only got the loan of it to come to town. And he was walking down the street, he said he'd go to the guards. He said, I won't bother, he said, because they wouldn't find it anywhere. And he said he went back to the parish priest and he knocked at the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, Father, he said, you'll have to, Sunday, he said, you'll have to give a sermon, he said, about all the stealing and robbing that's going on, telling him about the bike. And the priest said to him, I can't do that, he said, I'll have to stop at the first commandment and give him all a touch as I go along. And he said, you pep yourself halfway up the gallery, he said, with a good view of the congregation. And he said, when I'm finished with the 7th commandment, he said, you might be able to pick out the person that stole the bike. Mikey arrived the Sunday and Mass started and the priest went into the sermon. The first commandment and the second one. And when he was finished with the 6th commandment, there was the world of red faces around the chapel. And he started on the 7th commandment. And whatever look he gave, Mikey was gone off of his perch in the gallery, back to the back of the chapel, in between the two big statues that's in our chapel, St. Bean and St. Ita, and he down on one knee. And the priest finished the sermon quick. And he went into the sacristy and he said to himself, I must be the biggest idiot, he said, in this parish and the next one to be listening to that fella about his bike. He met Mikey in the street 3 or 4 days after. Mikey, he said, that was a terrible thing you done to me. He said, I gave 2 hours preparing that sermon. And he said, when I came to the vital spot, he said, you had left and gone back to the back of the chapel. Father, he said, you done a great job in it, he said. You couldn't have done better, he said, because he said, first when you were talking about the 6th commandment, I suddenly thought of where I left the bike.